Tell us about these jackup barges and sort of, you were talking about them a couple months ago. It's pretty interesting to hear how they operate and kind of let people know how these massive structures out in the water are being built, whether it be bridges or now in the U.S. we're getting into the offshore wind industry. Now it's more prevalent overseas. We're starting to see it here, but how are these structures set up using cranes nowadays versus back then?
They've been around a while. The oil industry in the past down the Gulf, they've used them for a long time in shallow water. They've been always been a shallow water, which means shallow in this industry is around 300 feet or less.
Okay.
You jack up, you take them out, you tow them out to the site with 4 legs in them, and then you have to run the legs down till they touch. And the minute they touch the bottom, then you add more pieces, and they're long enough, you drive them into the mud, and you pick the platform right up out of the water, enough so that bad weather doesn't bother it. And you'll see them in the Gulf all the time. And they have jack-up ones, and they have these semi-submersible ones that hold on their own. On a GPS, a satellite will tell them to stay right here. And my company built 2 of them in Portland, Maine. They came up from the Gulf. They had started construction, and the company ran out of money, and so they called us to see if we could finish them off. Meant put the platform on the legs and put the tower on the legs, and we did. We very successful at it. And that was a semi-submersible, 2 of them. And they stayed on their own, a GPS. If they had bad weather, this 8-inch pipe would unscrew itself at the mud line, and the barge could go away and come back, and the GPS would screw that pipe back onto itself down there 400, 500 feet deep.
Wow.
Incredible.
Wow.
And so we did those in 2004. We built 2 of them. They went to work 2004. Last year, they just scrapped the 2 of them. That's how the oil industry changes.
Wow.
Those were obsolete 14 years later, 15 years later.
That's crazy.
We've been around a long time. In the construction business, smaller scale, a lot of bridges in rivers where there's a lot of current use them, and that's a godsend for work like that.
Yep.
We built our own homemade barnyard welders. We built this platform. We had to drill and blast the ditch in that job I told you about at Brant Rock, and so we put an air track, a drilling rig up on top of this thing, and the biggest danger of the whole thing was not when it was up in the air or when it was floating, but it was the minute the legs touched the bottom, because there's always a swell, a ground swell, and you had to real quick, like you had to get all 4 legs down at the same time. Boy, it took a beating, and once again, nobody got hurt, and they ended up losing it in a storm over Christmas that second year. It got destroyed and went up on the beach in pieces. And
Yeah.
but it's a common thing. It's like I said, they're shallow water. They're going to be ideal for offshore wind.
Mm-hmm.
Offshore wind is not a real deep water event yet, and they will be either jackups or the semi-submersibles with the GPS to hold them in place. But
Yeah.
the cranes that are on them are they call it anti-sway, or there's a name for them, but they're compensating. They're self-compensating, so that the heading ball, the hook doesn't move, even
Yep.
though there could be a 20-foot sea, and that's a huge thing. The rigs that we worked on had that. It's self-compensating, and so a guy could land a piece of steel up there, even though the barge is moving up and down 20 feet. That's pretty cool. Every day it changes. Every day, if you're in the industry and go away and come back 2 years later, you'll see a whole different new set of theories and
Yeah.
rules and regulations. Pretty cool.